Travel with James. Once again, we are joined this time by Bobby Rahal. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So what we do is we allow the guests to pick what they like to drink, and then I have to drink the same thing.
Oh, all right.
In an attempt to get me to...
pretty safe then.
Okay, well, you say that, but I'm trying to explore all the different types of coffee. I've had them all now, but tell me what we're drinking.
Very lightweight, cafe au lait.
Okay, what is
Coffee
that?
with milk.
So this is just coffee with a bit of milk.
Yeah.
Are you a big coffee drinker?
Not really. I mean, yeah, I have a cup in the morning and what have you, maybe 2 at the most during the day, but for the most part, I'm not like some of these people who, they're coffee snobs.
Yeah.
They drink
David
coffee.
Malukas, for example.
Graham Rahal, for example.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. He's a snob.
This just tastes like coffee. The milk didn't really do its job for me.
Didn't do much?
No.
Sorry.
So I don't know. Bobby, we're here in Mid-Ohio, and obviously a special track for you. You're kind of known as the Columbus guy, but we were just chatting. I was asking if you were kind of born and raised here in Columbus, but evidently not.
No, I was born in northeastern Ohio, a town called Medina, which is just south of Cleveland. Even though I was born in Medina, I was really raised in the Chicago area and lived there really through my, early 20s.
And then you found your way back to Ohio for school.
Right, went to college, school called Denison University.
What'd you take? What'd you study?
I majored in history.
History?
Yeah, which doesn't really qualify you to do much. So
you
it's
could
probably
be a teacher,
or a lawyer maybe, or something, but that didn't sound very interesting. So, my dad raced sports cars in the late 50s, all throughout the 60s, early 70s, purely as an amateur. In fact, Mid-Ohio here, I was at the first race they ever held here. I think it was in 1962. And we would race here minimally once a year, maybe twice a year, even though we lived in Chicago. It's always great to come here.
So do you remember the first car you raced here?
I do.
What was it?
I raced a 2-liter Lola sports racing car. So I didn't, but Les Gravling would not allow anybody under 21 to race here in that previous year. So I had to wait till the next year.
Right.
And I raced here in a Lola 2-liter sports car, won my class. And of course, having been here and seen a lot of great drivers, I came to the Can-Ams, Formula 5000 races, IMSA races, you name it.
So you go on to have a very successful career in IndyCar racing. You were always the first driver that I knew what year they won the Indy 500, because it was the year I was born.
There you go.
But you did something that was certainly a lot less prevalent in modern times. Maybe way back in the day it was a thing, but you kind of transitioned from just driver to driver team owner. Knowing the stress and the pressure that there is being a driver, what on earth possessed you to add team owner on top of that?
Well, it was a matter of timing, because prior, people would say, "Are you going to own a team?" I go, "That's the last thing I'm going to do," right?
I've been saying that for years.
That's the last thing.
I maintain that to this day.
Well, I'll tell you. It's like when Brian Herta won his first 500, I said, "Okay, stop. You're done.
You're batting 1,000. Just go home."
Yeah, it's not going to get any better, right? Just go home. But I have to tell you that as I got older in my late 30s, I had seen a lot of drivers, frankly, become embittered. Where late in their career they were getting retired not based on their time schedule, but on somebody else's. And I saw people I really admired, and they were just kind of regretful of, they felt like they had
unfinished business,
and that they were still competitive.
Right.
I thought, what a horrible thing to devote your life to something you love and then leave the sport feeling that way. At the same token, or at the same time, I should say, I had signed for Pat Patrick, and this is for 1992 season, and but it was contingent upon getting the Chevrolet engine, which was the engine to have at the time. And he had gotten sideways with Chevrolet, with Ilmore, who built the engine a couple years earlier, and he couldn't get the engine. And he had been with Alfa Romeo for the few years prior to that. The head of marketing for Miller Brewing Company, who was Pat's sponsor, they had the same clause that it had to be a Chevy program. And he called me up and he said, "Listen, we're thrilled to, they were very happy when I signed with Pat, but understood, why I would have that caveat in there." And he said, why don't you start the team and we'll fund you, we'll support it. I asked Carl Hogan to join me as a partner, and we bought Patrick Racing out, all the employees and everything. And basically we just took Patrick Racing sign off the front of the building and put Team Rahal, or Rahal Hogan as it was then, but with a very experienced team. Probably one of the most successful crew chiefs in the history of IndyCar racing, a guy named Jim McGee. Scott Remke, who would become my right-hand man for many years until he regrettably passed away. And off we went. And, of course, nobody thought you could own a team and win races, let alone championships. And we ended up winning 4 races in '92 and winning the championship.
Well, I was going to say, my next question was going to be how much stress did it add to your day job as a driver, but evidently not really, that much.
No, to a large degree because I had great people around me.
And it was a running program, right? I mean, building
exactly.
it from scratch would be a very kind of different task and a different challenge.
And with Jim McGee there, Jim, he forgot more than most of this paddock will ever know. He's just a brilliant, very experienced guy. He'd worked for Mario with George Bignotti. He'd worked for Penske. He'd worked for many years. I don't know how many races Jim has won as a crew chief mechanic, but a lot.
So you had Max Pappas as your driver for a while, who obviously is currently one of the stewards of the IndyCar Series, has penalized me many times in my career. I just would love to know your favorite Max story from your time together.
The race I remember most for him, and I was in England, and I was watching the race with Adrian Newey, and it's at Portland, and it's just soaking wet. And Max won that race. I tell him I thought it was the finest race he'd ever driven, and everybody else, he was the only guy that didn't fall off the track. And yet, before the race, if you had said, who's going to fall off the track, I said, well, Max is a sure bet, right? And he drove such a disciplined race. And guys like DeFerrin and Montoya and all those guys were, they were just, they were all over the place, And he ended up winning the race. And another great one was, we qualified in the last row, Max, at Laguna Seca. The way the race started, it's all about right place, right time. There were so many yellows that every yellow, we're stopping. Well, the way everything unfolds, all those guys up front, they're having to pit. The yellows fell just perfectly for us and not so for everybody else. So Max ends up winning the race. And Max gets up on victory stand and he says, we kicked their ass, we kicked their ass. And Scott Remke looks up and says, Max, shut up. Because it was just pure good fortune that we were where we were.
Pass a single car on track.
Pass a single car. And so we didn't kick anybody's ass. We just got luckier than
you take those ones when you can, right?
And we were happy to take it.
So you have that sort of phase of the team, and then at some point you add a partner to the program by the name of David Letterman. Right. How did you know David Letterman, and how did you get him involved in an IndyCar team?
Well, in '86, after I won Indy, there was a guy who probably a fair number of people know, a guy named Jack Hanna. He was the Columbus Zoo director.
Animal Adventures,
Yeah. Well, he in fact is Graham's godfather. And Jack was always on David's show. With some wild animal and stuff. So after one show, David said to Jack, I said, I'd really like to get Bobby on the show. And Jack said, well, I'm a neighbor, I know him. So anyway, Jack came back, said, hey, here's David Letterman's number, call him, and he'd like to have you on the show. Great. Well, I didn't know that David was from Indy. I didn't know that David was a huge IndyCar fan. One time after a race, if you're ever looking for a partner, I'd really be interested. So, and then at the end of 1995, Carl Hogan and I kind of went our separate ways. And I called Dave up and I said, well, were you serious about wanting to be a partner? And he said, yeah. And I said, well, now's your chance. For that 2004 season, we changed it to Rahal Letterman. And of course, we won the race at Indy with Buddy Rice. And I said, hell, if I'd known that's all it was going to take, I would have changed the name a couple of years ago.
So one of the things I always kind of admired about your relationship with Graham, and obviously you and me and Graham go back a long time. Yeah. And, Graham got himself to IndyCar off the back of his performances. He drove for a bunch of different teams. And then eventually the sort of storybook thing happens where you two get to come together. And I'm always curious what it's like working with family in such a high pressure environment. Was this an easy transition, or did it take a little bit of massaging to kind of get it right?
Well, I don't know if it ever got right.
Still a work in progress.
Well, in the beginning, I was on his stand. I'd call the race. But it was here one time. He was driving for, he was driving for us. I want to say it was probably in 2013 or something. Anyway, he was running well. He was running like third or fourth. And he went up to the keyhole and got in there a little too hot. Cold tires right after a pit stop went off. Kind of drove through the gravel trap, got going again. And I said to him, as he's going down the back stretch, I said, "We don't want to do that again, do we?" And I'm not going to tell you what, because I'd be violating,
some FCC compliance issues. Yeah.
When we first got together, I said, the real challenge here is you're going to have to treat me like the owner, and I'm going to have to treat you like the driver, not like I'm your father and you're my son. And as Brian Herta will tell you, that's much easier said than done.
Yeah.
And so in 2015, I just said, you know what, I'm in the way, just because, things you couldn't. It wasn't just so cut and dry. There's still emotion. I think in any family business, if you got your daughter working for you or your son, or even maybe a relative, there's so much emotion involved in there just because it's family. And so in 2015, I said, I'm off the stand. I'll just go watch in the infield. And of course, he won a couple races that year, and was second in the championship towards the end of the season.
And you said, if I had known this, I would have done it a lot earlier.
And I think it's been better.
What was that moment in 2015 where Graham won here at the home race? What did that mean to you?
That was just such a fabulous day. The fact that he was wearing an Ohio State football color helmet scheme on there. I mean, he won by 3+ seconds after a restart with 3 or 5 laps to go maybe. He was quick. He didn't inherit it. He drove away. I mean, that's a way to do it.
So you've been on the winning side as a driver of both the championship and a 500. You've been on the winning side as a team owner of both those things. Now that, I think your driving days are probably behind you.
Yes,
I don't want to
are.
speak for you, but kind of focusing on the team owner side, what means more? If you could take one of the two next year, which one would it be?
Well, if it's Graham, I'd take 500.
Okay.
Yeah. For me, I mean, we've won a couple 500s as an owner, so, I mean, that would be nice. But I think a championship is so much harder to win.
Yeah, for sure.
Because it's like,
gotta be good all year
17
long.
races, yeah. You can't have any down days. And it's a real, people ask me, what's the value, or which one did you appreciate better, winning Indy or winning the championship? Well, I won Indy as a driver. That's great, and that just makes your life really in so many ways, professionally and personally. But to win the championship as an owner, you just know how much goes into that to get to that point.
You and Graham both have been very entrepreneurial outside of motorsports. You're both very successful business owners in your own right. You've done some business together. I remember asking Graham, and now to be fair, it was some years ago now, the same question you were once asked as a driver, hey, would you ever want to be a team owner? And his response was the same as your initial response. Curious if you guys have had this discussion in a more recent time frame, and whether this is a family business that continues, or do you think eventually it goes a different way?
I don't know. I mean, Graham's 36. I retired at 45 from IndyCar racing. So, I mean, if he wants, he's still, and he's been showing us, recently as Elkhart Lake. I mean, he qualified in the top 6 the last 3 races. So he's still got the pace. It's not, to me, I knew I wasn't willing to make the mental commitment, and sacrifice that's necessary to be a successful driver, and that's why I stopped when I did. At some point, he'll probably come to that same conclusion, but when that is, I don't know. And I think he still enjoys getting in the race car. It's not like it's work. I think he really enjoys it. But I will say that, what he's built in Indianapolis, and he did it. I had nothing to do with it. At least he's prepared. You know, and a lot of drivers, you know, they don't worry, they don't think of too much about that until the moment when they get retired one way or the other, either on their own volition or, you know, somebody else's.
Yeah.
And then they go, now what am I going to do? Because you know you're going to. I retire at 45, so I got, you know, hopefully 45 more years after that point on this earth. So what are you going to do for those 40? Yeah, what are you going to do then? And so, you know, we started our first Honda dealership in January of '89. I was 36, so I had already been in business as an automobile dealer, you know, for 9 years when I retired. And so I think he's in that same position, you know, that you can race now because you really want to race, not because you have to race.
Right.
So, yeah, I think that's a good thing.
That is a very good thing. Well, you've clearly instilled some very good knowledge and wisdom into him from your experience.
I'd like to think so, but, you know.
He might deny it, but I know how this works.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to leave you with this. Is your favorite beer still Miller Lite?
Yeah.
Yeah? Not MGD?
Well, I loved MGD, but the calories. You know,
of course. Got to watch that spelt
guy.
figure. Got to watch that spelt figure. Well, my favorite coffee hasn't been found yet. We're still working on that. But it's definitely going to be from the Honda Hospitality. Bobby, cheers, buddy. Thanks for coming out. Still gross.